up on today's show, I want to explore some Bears defensive coordinator candidates if they end up with Ben Johnson or another offensive coach. Obviously, that is not set in stone at this point in time. We'll probably do the same segment on the opposite end of the spectrum, offensive coordinator candidates if they end up with a defensive coach. But want to kind of explore 5 names in particular that I'd be interested in hiring to run this defense if they do get a Ben Johnson, a Cliff Kingsbury, whoever the offensive guy is, if they go that route. And by the way, choo-choo, are you all aboard the Ben Johnson train because it's leaving the station? Type me if you want Ben Johnson. That's who I want. That's who most of you want. And if you do, type me in the comment section down below. Okay, let's take a look at these defensive coordinator candidates. Let's start with Robert Saleh. Obviously, former Jets head coach, got fired midseason this year. He was the 49ers defensive coordinator for 4 years before that. In 2 of those 4 seasons, they finished top 8 in EPA per play, which is a good metric that teams use. What I like here is he's got the combination of head coach experience in a big market, by the way, and he's a proven defensive play caller. So I think he's very qualified. I think he will be highly sought out for a lot of different teams. He's been consulting with the Packers, actually, his old buddy Matt LaFleur, since he got fired with the Jets. We'll see where he ends up. They obviously aren't going to make him their DC next year because Halfley's actually done a decent job. But Robert Saleh, I think, is a name that's going to garner a lot of attention to be a defensive coordinator in 2025. How about Lou Anarumo? That's another name I expect to generate a lot of buzz. The Bengals decided to move on. Their defense slipped the last couple of years after those 2 AFC Championship runs and one of them being a Super Bowl run. But from 2020 to 2022, he led 3 top 10 defenses in EPA those 3 seasons. And I think Lou Anarumo is underrated. I get it slipped the last couple of years. Who is Cincinnati working with? Trey Hendrickson's awesome. Can you name another defensive player on those teams? Not many people can. So I think with what he was working with, he did the best he could. And by the way, in their 5-0 stretch down, 5-0 finish to end the season, their defense was like fringe top 10. So like he was turning it around. I was actually kind of surprised that Zach Taylor decided to can him because I thought they were getting back on track with what the defense had been from 2020 to 2022. He's had head coach interviews before, so I'm a fan of his defense. He was a big reason why the Bengals are only one of 2 teams to beat Patrick Mahomes in a non-Super Bowl playoff game. He is a pretty damn good football coach. Okay, let's talk about today's sponsor before we get to some more candidates. That, of course, is Game Time, the place to go and get last-minute tickets for the lowest price guaranteed is at Game Time. And look, the Bears season may be over, but there's plenty of sporting events, concerts, comedy shows to go to if you want to get out of the house, which you should. Why wouldn't you? Use their feature Game Time Picks, which helps eliminate the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. NFL playoffs are here. I've been to a couple NFL playoff games. I've been to a college football playoff national championship game. Game Time is going to get you the best deal. I can promise you that. You can get super deals, which are the best bang for your buck, certain parts of the stadium, and views from the events as well, whether it's a concert venue, a stadium, or whatever the case may be. You'll be able to see those as well, so you have the exact vantage point of where you're going to be sitting or standing. Download Game Time today. Use code ChatSports to get $20 off your first purchase only. That's code ChatSports for $20 off. Terms do apply. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. What time is it? It is Game Time. Okay, we got 3 more here. Dennis Allen, very similar to Robert Saleh, except for he's actually been a head coach twice. Kind of failed miserably both times, although he won 9 games last year, so not terrible the second time around with the Saints. Had a winning season at least. Not a good head coach, though. Like, that's well documented. But he's an excellent defensive coordinator. Like, he's a really good defensive coordinator. And the beauty of a Dennis Allen is if you get him and he's good, he's not getting a third head coaching opportunity. So, I think the dream for a lot of these teams is that have an offensive head coach is how do we get our Steve Spagnuolo, a guy who is awesome at what he does, but has very little chance of becoming a head coach again. I think Dennis Allen could be the next version of that. Now, is Spags better than Allen? Absolutely. But is Dennis Allen a top 10 defensive coordinator? I believe he is. And even though he wasn't great at it, I like the idea of having a guy who's been a head coach before, especially if you hire a first-time head coach like Ben Johnson, to be your defensive coordinator. So two things I'd love to have in the DC. And you may not get both of these. I understand that, but I'd like to have at least one. Proven defensive play caller for multiple seasons, someone who's done it for multiple years and has had success for multiple years. All three of these guys we've talked about so far check that box. Two of the three check the second box, someone who's been a head coach before. Dennis Allen, Robert Saleh. Lou Anarumo hasn't, but he's had head coaching interviews, so he's been close before. I think all three of these guys would be my clear-cut top three choices at this point in time. So pick a DC. Who would you like to have? Type RS for Robert Saleh, LA for Lou Anarumo, or DA for Dennis Allen. Gerod Mayo is next up here. Type on my part, that should say ex-head coach for the New England Patriots. He was a defensive coach before that, not technically a defensive coordinator, though. One thing about Gerod Mayo is he has never actually called plays for defense, which is kind of tough to believe. Like, that was the Belichick show. Then his son, Steve Belichick, called plays. Mayo never actually called the plays, so that's a potential red flag. I think he's a bright young guy. Obviously, he was not ready to be a head coach. Patriots pulled the plug after 1 year, fair or not. But I have to have him lower because even though he does have that 1 year of head coaching experience, he has never called plays for the defense. So that's a concern for me. That would have him lower on the list for me. Would I want him on my staff? Could he be a position coach with some kind of elevated title? Yes. I would not want him necessarily as my defensive coordinator if some of these other guys are available. Subscribe to the channel. One more name to talk about coming up in a second, but coaching search is ongoing. Once they hire a head coach, they're going to have to fill out a staff, which is why we're talking about some coordinators here. So stay on top of the latest Bears news, updates, juicy rumors that are out there by subscribing today. How about Jim Leonhard? For you Big Ten fans, you should be very familiar with Jim Leonhard, former Wisconsin defensive coordinator. You look at his coaching journey. There was a point where he was viewed as like a big-time head coach in the making. I still think that could happen, especially at the collegiate level. But had a hell of a run at Wisconsin where he played, and then he eventually became the defensive coordinator, eventually became the interim head coach, and players pushed for it. He thought he had the head coaching job. They hired Luke Fickell instead, so he ends up leaving. Kind of takes a year off. He was a senior analyst at Illinois, but more so was just kind of catching his breath. And then this year, Sean Payton and Vance Joseph hire him to be the Broncos secondary coach. And that Broncos defense has been awesome, and he's been a part of that staff. I think he's a star defensive coach. I really do. This guy is 41, 42 years old. I think he could be a head coach in the future at either the college or NFL level. I would be very interested in this guy as a defensive coordinator. He's called plays, yes, at the college level, but Big Ten is a lot of NFL conceptual things going on there, and Wisconsin's defenses were always damn good under him. I like that he's worked under Vance Joseph this year, and he's been on an NFL staff for a season under a guy like Sean Payton. So keep an eye on Jim Leonhard, who has Midwest ties, obviously, Wisconsin, Illinois. I think this could make a lot of sense. If the Bears hire Ben Johnson or any offensive coach as their head coach, who do you want as the defensive coordinator? Is it someone I mentioned? Is it someone else? Drop a name in the comment section down below. And again, don't forget to subscribe. We're going to be here every single day, pumping out content throughout this process. And even in the dog days of the offseason, we're bringing you guys daily content. My name is Harrison Graham. Bear down.